Well, since I've been behind on a lot of toy news, I'm going to try and catch up with all the Siege stuff in one video. Starting with the newest stuff, the long-rumored G2 Hero repaint of Siege Megatron has finally been released. Upon first inspection, it may look like a straight repaint, but he actually has a remolded head that is more reminiscent of his appearance in Megatron Origin. Could this be foreshadowing a full-on Megatron Origin repaint and remold of this figure to come? Also worth noting is that an error in his pre-order page references a Voyager Red Wing figure. Does this mistake mean that we'll be getting a red repaint of the Starscream mold in the future? Next, we finally have clear official images of what's being called Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime, which is basically a modern interpretation of the original Cybertron or Galaxy Force Optimus Prime. In his normal robot mode, he's more G1 inspired. But we didn't come here to check out his uncombined mode, no. In vehicle mode and super robot mode, he's the spitting image of the original figure. He's obviously not as big as the original, and he's lacking the cyberplanet key gimmicks, lights and sounds, and the removable matrix that the original had. But if you're a Cybertron or Galaxy Force fan, you're definitely going to want to pick this guy up. One of the newest reveals today, at least as I'm recording this, is Siege Springer. And wow, he's exactly G1 Springer. It's amazing how many third-party companies have been doing Masterpiece-style Springers, and this one looks just like them, but on a Voyager budget. Obviously he's still not Masterpiece level accurate or scale-wise, but if you've been waiting on a cartoon-accurate Springer, rather than the more IDW Comics-inspired Springer that we got a few years ago, which is still an awesome figure, well, now you can choose. G1 cartoon or Last Stand of the Wreckers Springer. I can't wait to see him with the other movie class figures. That should make for a great picture. Next up, we've got a couple obvious repaints. Red Alert and Thundercracker. Red Alert, a simple repaint of Siege Sideswipe, now with a light bar weapon. The only mystery about him is what the Cybertronian writing says. Beside his crest it says F and D, which stands for Fire Department. And below that, it says Fire Chief. And then there's Thundercracker, who of course is a repaint of Starscream. Not much to say here, it's Thundercracker. Hopefully we'll get a Skywarp repaint to complete the trio, plus Rainmakers would be nice too, in addition to that Red Wing we previously mentioned. Now let's go back in time a week to Wonderfest, because we got some really exciting new figures out of there. Namely new generation style versions of Star Convoy and Armada Optimus Prime. Yes, the Unicron Trilogy fans must be really excited, because this Armada Optimus Prime looks badass. Unfortunately, we don't have any details on these figures yet. Whether they'll be part of the Siege line or Takara exclusives is unknown. But this Armada Optimus Prime looks too good to be part of the Siege line, and no images of his vehicle mode either. If I didn't know better, I'd say this was one of Flame Toy's model kits. There's also a suspicious seam where the original toy would split in half for Super Robot mode, but again, no sign of a trailer. Now Star Convoy doesn't look quite as amazing as Armada Optimus, but he does seem to be a clever remold of the Power of the Prime's Optimus Prime mold. Like the Armada Optimus, we have no images of his vehicle mode or the smaller robot mode. But from the one picture we have of his back, it looks like the Orion Pax figure has been remolded as well. I suspect he's been made to look like Optimus Prime, so that way you have a G1 Optimus Prime that evolves into Star Convoy. Pretty neat. And finally we have some big reveals of last week, and what will no doubt be the focus of this weekend's Toy Fair. First up, the two winners of the fan vote, Impactor and Mirage. Impactor I initially thought was a heavy retool of Siege Megatron, but the closer I looked, I couldn't find any parts that actually shared between the two. Plus the fact that Impactor is supposed to be a deluxe and Megatron is a Voyager, so there may be some engineering similarities, but this does seem to be a brand new mold. As for the figure itself, he looks a bit too blockish for me. I think the head could be more round, and the chest could be bigger and not as flat. And of course there's the very hollow looking legs, which I can see some people having issue with too. Mirage looks pretty good. I always liked Mirage. He was a pretty unique bot in G1, had a pretty cool power, and really stood out, design and character wise, from his fellow Autobots. Here again, on first impression, I thought he was a heavy retool of Sideswipe, just because of the very broad chest. But yet again, it does appear to be a new mold, just some similar design aesthetics. He looks good. Personally, I will always prefer the classics figure. I just love the slim, sexy racer body, as well as that great head sculpt that reminds me of an Egyptian headdress. Very fitting for the character. You know, because Egypt, desert, Mirage. But this figure looks good too, and he actually comes with both of his weapons this time. No having to buy a whole third-party trailer just for his shoulder launcher. I'm interested to see how his faux chest works, and where his actual front spoiler thing hides. Also, he seems to have some writing that homages his G1 toy on the side, but it's not any Cybertronian that I could find. I think it's literally just made up for this toy. With the exception of the last two characters, which are supposed to be the number 26, but here they look like the Cybertronian characters for D and U. Maybe it stands for Decepticon Undercover. After all, the fan vote was supposed to be for two Versus characters, an Autobot and a Decepticon. Could Mirage truly be a traitor this time? Next up, we have our first ever Commander class figure. Well, sort of. We've had Command or Commander size classes before, but for the most part they were always smaller scale figures. Now Hasbro seems to be using the Commander class to refer to larger figures. Probably somewhere between Leader and Titan class going by the price. Anyways, this new Jetfire figure is every G1 Skyfire fan's dream come true. He looks just like the old Sunbow cartoon model in both robot mode and jet mode. Any more perfect and this would be a masterpiece figure. I'm not much of a fan of the add-on chest armor gimmick though. I think it's supposed to make him look more like the old Macross toy, but it just reminds me of the Power of the Prime's chest armor. But what really kills it is that his helmeted head is missing the ear antenna gun things. But I think that's because the helmeted head is probably just the normal head turned around. We'll probably see plenty of third-party upgrades for this guy to make him more Robotech-like once he comes out. But for me, he's perfect in his normal cartoon accurate modes. Oh, and apparently he has a faction swapping gimmick too, so that's pretty cool. Although, with as G1 accurate as this figure is, how can they not have that feature in him? And finally, the big guy himself, Omega Supreme. And, well, he looks like Omega Supreme. He's a straight up modern version of the G1 figure. In robot mode, he looks just like how you'd expect. He's even got the yellow detailings on the legs where the clips would go, and it looks like he also comes with some effect parts for his hands. Base mode, again, is just like his G1 base mode. It's all here. The rocket, the tank, the track, and the actual base thing. Unfortunately, I don't think the tank will move around the track on its own, although who knows, maybe a third party will make a replacement for those who really want that. Which for me was one of the coolest things about the original Omega Supreme. Not only was he a robot and a rocket and a tank and all this, but he was also like a working train set in the way that the tank would go around the track. Oh, and he comes with Micromaster Countdown, so that's pretty awesome. We haven't seen him since the Universe 2.0 line, where he got a figure in the form of a repaint of Cybertron Red Alert. Well, I think that's everything Siege related. Let me know your thoughts on these reveals. I'm sure by the time this is up, we'll have even more reveals from Toy Fair. But let me know what you think so far down in the comments. And I'll see you back here for some Masterpiece news.